Welcome to the Wild Mom Podcast. We do things a little differently around here. If you're a mystic, spiritual, conscious, wild mother, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to come back to your roots, remember your divinity, and embody the wild woman within. You're here to shake up the parenting game, awaken from the matrix, and raise your new earth children to be free and energetically connected to all there is. This is your podcast to reclaim the wise and the wealthy, the intuitive, loving, and divinely feminine motherhood. Mama, welcome back to the wild. So welcome everybody back to another episode of the Wild Mom Podcast. I have a beautiful soul, Britta, here, and she is a soul healing facilitator using wisdom as a doula, a psychotherapist, somatic and energetic healer. And she is founding the Birthing Soul, which is a soul-centered app for pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and beyond. And we're going to dive so much deeper into this amazing app. But Britta, I just want to start off by saying thank you for being here. I welcome you, and I'm so excited for the soulful chats that we are going to have today. So let's introduce yourself. What do you do on this third plane reality? And then we'll get into our amazing conversation.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And what do I do? Feels like it spans like anything to do with like the energetic, shamanic, like other realms, and trying to bring it really here, actively moving in the collective. And I find my source point really is the birth and perinatal phase. I've always been called to that, even since like a really, really young age. Like honestly, since I was a little girl wanting to work with mommies. And so I do that one-to-one work. I do a method called spinal attunement. I do a deeper kind of more shamanic somatic modality, so like a body-based modality called emotional release. And yeah, I'm founding this app, which has kind of consumed and taken over. It's my soul path. So it's been a really wild journey.
That's amazing. And I definitely want to hear more about the Birthing Soul app. But first, I want to know, what was your birthing and even pregnancy journey like? Was it something that was liberating and expansive, or did you face your own trauma that kind of really instilled that, yes, this is something that is needed for these new earth moms to really have this energetic component to birth?
Yeah, I actually had quite challenging pregnancies. Pregnancy, I kind of joke like pregnancy and postpartum are incredibly hard for me. I'm great at giving birth. Like when it comes to the birth, I'm fast, I'm efficient, I make it happen. But my first birth was in 2018. I was working for a school for pregnant parenting teens, building their maternal health program. And I just kind of thought I knew what I was stepping into and was determined to have a home birth. And now in 2018, home births were like, nobody was really doing this, especially for your first birth. Everyone was like, just wait till your next one. Like, just don't shake things up. And my midwives were driving me crazy, didn't trust me, like not listening to me. And I decided at 34 weeks to change to a home birth midwife. And she took me on. I had a powerful, precipitous labor. So I literally, from my waters breaking to my baby being born, it was 3.5 hours. So
Oh,
incredibly fast, which was wild.
yeah. Mine was 7 hours, and I thought that was fast, but
It
3 hours?
is. That is fast. Yeah, that is fast. No, and 3 hours is like otherworldly. So thankfully, I have some like photos and documentation of just the pure wildness that I stepped into. And I think it was really part of my soul journey to really do that and embody that and kind of, suggest that this is possible, not just like, days long birthing, but like, whoa. And it kind of showed up in my life really powerfully um, to everyone in the birthing world I was already working with. So that was amazing. And yet I still really grappled with a lot of trauma, my own personal trauma surfacing in the postpartum period. So my postpartum was definitely highly anxious. Um, I feel like so much was coming online for me.
Hmm.
My deep sensitivity that I had just been, covering and repressing for my whole life up to that point. Um, And then my second birth was completely different. Like I knew I was having a baby girl. It was like the heart of like lockdown times. This is like 2020 to 2021. And I, she was due in early April, and I just knew the whole time. I was like, she is not going to be an Aries. There is no way this is an Aries baby. It just doesn't feel right. Her whole like conception story was so powerful as well. And at this point, I had really already stepped deeper into like the energetic, intuitive spaces. And sure enough, she broke those waters at 35 weeks,
Hmm.
canceled my home birth plans. Um, but I birthed her in the hospital as a preemie and like really fought to keep her out of the NICU because I knew that she was okay. I knew she was meant to be here. I knew that she was aware of the time that she needed to be born. So sure enough, she was a Pisces. She's like triple water, my little psychic angel. And yeah, so I also gave birth in a hospital. Not something I ever thought I would say. But having both of those experiences, I do think kind of accumulate in a really broad awareness for me of what the birthing culture is. I've also attended many births as a doula and walked this path with so many clients that I think I just have a really strong view of kind of like where we're at in the threshold of the birth system at this point in time.
That's, yeah, that's an amazing story. I know for myself, my daughter ended up having to go to the hospital. We had a little bit of a traumatic birth. But my plan was, again, I feel like all of us that want to have this plan, it's shattered. It's just like, it's not going to go
Yeah,
as planned. There is
no,
deeper
there's no
meaning
such
here and
thing.
lessons. Yeah.
Yeah.
And gosh, I really didn't want her to be in the hospital either. I knew she was okay, and I wish that I had the level of trust and confidence in myself that I do now back then. It was my first child, and when the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck and the midwives were freaking out and they took her away, it brought me right into that fight or flight mode that I kind of lost that intuitive knowing that I had because I
Mhm.
thought that yeah, I got this in the bag as well, and then it was just poof,
Yep.
bitch slap with no, sorry, it's not. You have deeper lessons to learn.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you on the shifting of your plans.
Mhm.
Um, and so now share with me a couple of the energetic practices that are empowering for moms during the either pregnancy and or birthing time.
Yeah. Well, so I really believe in connecting to the body really early on in pregnancy. And that's why, initially when we were founding the app, I was really focused on postpartum because you kind of get just dropped off.
Hmm.
But I feel to kind of look at pregnancy as a more of initiation than just waiting until the birth initiation is really powerful practice because as you're naming, our nervous systems need to be able to build capacity to hold the intensity of the unexpected. And that's inevitable. I've never ever witnessed any woman give birth that something didn't happen that was unexpected in her birth. And that's part of the mystery.
Hmm.
It's part of the gift of experiencing a new soul coming into the world and you're disrupted because you're saying, "Okay, I don't get to control this." And they have their own path that's now merging with mine.
Hmm.
And so we work on like what I call the somatic and energetic levels of really just practicing connecting early on in pregnancy to the child's soul path, to your own body awareness, and what like symptoms and experiences within your own body are telling you. So, like beginning decoding that wisdom even things that are highly normalized, like, extreme nausea in the first trimester, are things we can work with to kind of claim what is happening within your system
Hmm.
that is energetically creating a misalignment. Um, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to 100% go away. And I think that's something I really focus on is nuance having the wisdom and like lending yourself to work toward creating that connection to your inner wisdom is more important than necessarily like fixing. That's not what we're trying to do.
Hmm.
Uh, because as you've already kind of mentioned here, like what we experience in the pregnancy and birth and postpartum portals are medicine for us to utilize to transform. So we need what's showing up for us. Um, so we use all types of different tools in that way to really guide women to that deeper connection, starting very early on, because all steps of the pregnancy are just essential for that process. We also integrate things like orgasmic birthing, so really working on the sexuality plane of creation at various aspects of pregnancy and postpartum to connect with that inner seed of creation. And we work also with like somatic breastfeeding practices and things like that to really connect to these parts of ourselves that are maybe brand new. The first time we're really experiencing embodying it. So the whole energy is really, we offer some information and guidance, but ultimately it's about guiding you back to your own knowing and intuition at every single step.
Hmm. I love it so much. There's so many little things that keep popping into my head. And actually, one of the beautiful souls who was on here live, she says that she agrees with all of this. She's been working on connection during pregnancy. So, also, if you're live, please drop any questions that you have for Britta because she is here to provide all of her wisdom and guidance for all of us wild moms who are on this path, who want to be doing this. We want to be connecting with our kids because there's motherhood is such like there's such medicine in motherhood, as you mentioned. And I feel like the greater agenda, I feel like there's a lot of fear that's been placed on us and our autonomy has been taken away from us, especially in the birthing process, especially in the pregnancy, even postpartum. It's all, I know better. You have to do it this way. It's only safe if you do it like this. And I know for myself, when I was pregnant, I was like, I am challenging all of these. Whatever society says is the norm, I'm like, I'm going the opposite way because I know
Right.
that there's something else here, that there's something on the norm side of it that's they don't tell us, right? Because I know that birthing on your back, that's the worst position for you because
Right.
it's only benefiting the doctors, right? You're working against gravity.
Mhm.
And so it's things like this that so many moms aren't educated on, but it's so important, especially when you want that, like you said, orgasmic birth. Like, I want an orgasmic birth. I don't want to be going through the pain. You had a 3 hour birth.
Mhm.
Like, that is so uncommon, especially for your first birth. And
Yeah.
I even remember when I was pregnant, my mother-in-law was saying, you're gonna have a long birth. Chances are it's gonna be like 30 hours. And I was like, I'm not calling that in. I'm calling it a birth that is like, we're getting her out of here.
Yeah.
And it's possible. It's
Yeah.
possible when you work with the energetic. So, what are some of the things that the moms that you've worked with has experienced since incorporating more of this energetic and somatic practices into their pregnancy, birth, and postpartum experience?
Yeah, one thing I love you're mentioning like your mom and other women in your life speaking and projecting. What's is what I would call it, projecting their own pain onto your birth story. We work a lot with women to deprogram their lineage birth stories. So using various, somatic and energetic techniques to really create a new narrative within and release those hooks, those energetic hooks around what happened to your mom, how you were born, um, what's happening in the collective, what you're seeing on social media, and all that kind of a thing, so that you can be centered and know that whatever comes up for you, you'll know how to approach it. Because like I did have an orgasmic birth in a hospital. No one's going to tell you that that's possible, really,
Mhm.
but you have to create the setting and the potential within yourself for that to come true. And it may not always feel orgasmic, that's just how it also is. But what I've seen with other moms, one in particular who, and this is where, I feel it's really important to name that birth is nuanced. There is no black and white here, and there's not really a right or wrong. And I had a client who had given birth before, had quite a traumatic first birth, and then was planning a home birth for her second, very, very adamant about this, but started feeling around the third trimester that something wasn't quite right. Sure enough, started show her body was showing her signs, some bleeding and things that things weren't right. And she went in and they checked, and I think she was there for half a day. They're doing all the non-stress tests and everything's looking cleared. And she's talking to me on the phone, and we're like, okay, you're gonna go home and we'll see how this plays out. Well, then I get a call from her the next morning that she had a C-section that night, and she's like euphoric. She's like, I knew something wasn't right. Right before we left the hospital, right after I got the phone with you, I was like, nope, check him again. And they checked that baby, and sure enough, something had shifted, and they decided to go straight in and get him out, and they saved that baby.
Mm.
And she was absolutely euphoric. It was the perfect outcome for her. And I share that because we're not here to say that like interventions and these types of things are completely unneeded, but what this root of the issue is when a woman is disconnected from her intuitive knowing, or when people gaslight her out of what she knows is best. Because unfortunately, I've witnessed other stories where moms have come in and said something's wrong and they didn't hear her, and a tragedy unfolded. And that's, I think, the biggest thing I want to focus on with the system is that like the essence, like the energy of control and dominance and logic and planning and data, that's patriarchal domination of the birth system. That's what we're seeing, and it's excessive.
Mhm.
It's beyond what we can really hold. And yet the pregnancy and birth is like the pinnacle of feminine embodiment, which is like chaos, mystery, unpredictability, and non-linear cycles.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, I think, when we're basically saying like overriding the intuition and dominating with extreme interventions in the birth space. And then you go into the postpartum and there's literally almost nothing. Nothing.
Mm.
Like it's so wild.
Yeah.
You cross that threshold and you are literally dropped into the abyss. And you have had IV fluids, you've had all these medical interventions, you've had a highly medicalized birth, and then what? You're just, you've birthed on your back, you broke your tailbone.
Mhm.
Bye. That's
Not
it.
only that, just the transition from like maiden to mother is massive, and you're like, oh, figure it out on your own while taking care of a newborn that you've never done before. Have fun.
Right. Right. Which, that part is so, it's hard to conceptualize because in some ways we do have to do that alone. And I think the sad thing is that we really lack the elder maternal support that would hold space for that transformation. And not many of us have really witnessed women in our life doing it well.
Yeah.
Either they disappear or they're going into pleasing mode and saying everything's fine and acting like they're just back at it, or there's a whole spectrum of things that we witness, but we're not really seeing the integration of both the highs and the lows looking really good. Even
Mhm.
influencer culture. This is one that I struggle with a lot because you see an influencer have a baby and she's making content the next
Yeah.
day in her beautiful beige home, and you're just like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, how do I fit into that realm?
Mhm.
Which is really, it's an illusion. Um,
Yeah.
you know, Proud for those babes, good for you, but it's not reality, and we're not seeing reality.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I love what you said, and I love your mission because it's one of the things that I really focus on as well, and more on the energetic side of it, of just trusting your intuition. Like as
Mhm.
a mystic mama, my membership, the mystic, it's all about you coming back and healing yourself and connecting with your intuition. And it's so important for moms because we now have the opportunity to, like you have mentioned, to alchemize ourself, to alchemize our lineage, to heal that, to release karmic connections and vows. And there's so much. And that's why I absolutely love this journey in motherhood, because I never thought that all of this would manifest. And yet
Mhm.
I'm like, there are parts of me that I didn't even realize were there. There are like ancestral wounds that I didn't even realize that I held. And once you realize that you are so powerful as a mother, both with manifesting, with healing your kids, with just having a child, whether it's hospital, free birth, whatever it may be,
Mhm.
you realize that you are the creator of your reality
Mhm.
and you can create anything. And we are goddesses and mystics and witches, and it's just such a beautiful process. So I thank you so much for doing this, because it's needed. It is so needed, especially for all of us awakened mothers who are bringing in these new birth kids. Like you said, your little, how'd you say it? Your psychic angel.
Yeah.
Like I call my daughter a little light worker. Like these kids are so connected and intuitive, and they need us as mothers, awakened mothers, intuitive mothers, to be breaking cycles so that they have someone elder to look up to when they are ready for their own birthing process.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much for doing this work. So now tell me more about the Birthing Soul app. Like I am so intrigued. I'm like, why was this not here when I was pregnant? So tell me more.
I mean, I truly am creating the thing I wish I had, and um, what it really is, it's daily digestible content that's kind of the wise women perspective. So we have content largely from me, kind of bridging the psychic realms, the emotional realms, the embodied and somatic realms with spiritual and intuitive realms. That's a lot of what I bring onto it. But we also do a lot of practical things like um, communication with your partner. We will eventually have a partner app, actually. So this will have something for the dads because Lord knows we need them to get on board,
Yeah.
and quicker than is happening. Um, but there will be, like relationships activities, working with the energetics of money, because that's a huge one that comes up in birth. And it's why people make the choices they do, is because of this illusion of like insurance. And now you're Canadian. So, life is a little different on that edge. But in the US, it is absurd, the costs of giving birth. And
Ridiculous. I couldn't believe it when I found
so,
out.
yeah. Yeah. Like I think the average cost of birth in the US is $30,000.
And that's for a normal, healthy
Yeah.
birth.
That's a vaginal delivery. And it's an illusion that insurance actually pays for anything because you still end up paying like $10,000 minimum. It's crazy. But anyway, so like we kind of take all the aspects, whether like mundane or magical, and really kind of dig into like what's happening for you energetically here, a lot of deep reflections, and then always bringing it back into the embodied space, because through our bodies is where we're going to access the deepest parts of self, our ancestral lineages, our quantum futures, all of those types of things. So there's that aspect. One of my favorite features that I absolutely love is appointment trackers. And these are guided sort of journal entry looking pages that allow you to document what's coming up for you going into your sessions, whether this is like an OB or a midwife appointment, your therapy, your doula, whoever it is, to really prompt you to have a deeper inner reflection, really put down what you're actually experiencing, and then to process afterward. Like, did you really get the care you need? Do you feel like what they're recommending, this intervention, is aligned for you? Because, sometimes you'll go in, they'll say, oh, well, baby's measuring big, whatever the stupid stuff they try to project onto you. This is a space where you get to look within and say, do I agree? Am I there? What is my intuition really saying about this?
Hmm.
Do I need more information? Do I need to change providers? So this is kind of like my, you know, more revolutionary advocate part of self that's coming through, saying like, we're not going to change the system until there's pressure in all directions, that we need to do better. And giving you a space to make meaning out of these experiences. Because sometimes you go and you see your midwife for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you feel supported in that way? I'm not sure, and I think it's really hard to know what to ask, and the timing. So the whole essence of the app is kind of like, let us just hold you. Let us
Hmm.
just carry you so that, yeah, you can read books, take the courses, but also we're going to bring up these topics that maybe you didn't think was connected, give you some time and space to really reflect and work on it little by little over the process of like about 2 years. And then we're going to be adding on more conscious parenting and more things. So we're not going to really drop people off at any point. But our content will go for an entire year postpartum at our initial launch. So
And so this isn't launched yet, but it's going to be launched.
yeah, we're in our prototype phase now. So we're working on just like recording all of our pieces, getting everything designed, and hoping to launch in the next 6 months. So
Oh, that's amazing. And someone asked, what's the app called again? It's the Birthing Soul.
Yep, the Birthing Soul app, and we have a newsletter to kind of stay in the loop with anything that's happening pre-launch. And we do monthly wisdom weaving circles. So that's a time when you can come on and actually feel the energy of the app before it's launched. Like if you're pregnant now, we want to give you the support that you need, answer questions, things like that, before it's ready to be in your hands.
That's so amazing. I'm so excited about that. And I will make sure to add the link to both the Weaving Circle and your newsletter. So those who are part of the Wild Mom tribe, who are listening to the Wild Mom podcast, can join in and feel held and supported. Um, One Beautiful Soul is saying I'm due at the end of January. So it will hopefully be launched before or after that, right?
Yeah, probably after that, but the postpartum content is going to be really, really powerful.
Okay.
We'll
Um,
probably eventually have something that you can kind of just pop in, even if you want to kind of reclaim your birth story. So,
mm,
um,
so powerful.
lots of directions it's going to go in. Yeah.
Yes, and I'll add all the links to for everyone to join in before and after because this is something that is so needed, that is so important. And again, I thank you so much because I'm excited to be joining this when I'm pregnant again.
Yes.
If I'm
Yes.
pregnant again, I've already met my spirit baby, so I know there's two more coming.
Oh, amazing.
So yeah, so I'm so excited. So, do you have any last piece of wisdom for the wise, wealthy, and wild moms to kind of come back to their intuition?
Yeah, I mean, I think really tuning into the sense of the body is the best way to connect with your intuition, to really listen inward, listen deeply, and feel those sensations fully. And I feel, we are at kind of an urgent point of like paying attention and showing up to this work, but also trusting that the larger unfolding takes a long period of time to integrate and to give yourself grace that this is not a fast and short term process, but really something that's going to unfold appropriately for what you can handle in your life, in your space. So just trusting that timing as well.
Mm, thank you. And so, where can we find you? Where do you hang out?
Online?
Yeah, we don't have to come to visit you, but we
Yeah.
can if you want us to.
Yeah, come on over. I have my witchy lair. Uh, no, but I'm on TikTok. So kind of sharing little tidbits there. I was just talking about postpartum rage there the other day, the mother wound. I'm also on Instagram. I have two accounts on Instagram. One is my soul midwife account. That's where I kind of do my more personal artwork, my one-to-one work, a little bit witchier astrological things on there. And then the birthing soul, of course, is on there as well, where you can kind of get little bits of wisdom that flows through that space. So
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll add all the links to this episode. And yes, just I'm just so grateful for you. So thank you so much for being here.
thank you so much for being here, holding this incredible community, and just glad to share.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.